Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Empowered. My name is Luis Carlos Estrada, and today I have a very special guest, which is an agent of the FBI. Vanessa, welcome to Empowered. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Luis. I'm really well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just finished working right now, so we are recording actually in the place where I work.
Excellent.
And to start this episode, I would like you to tell me a little bit about your background, what you have done before becoming an agent of the FBI, and more about you.
Yeah, of course. So I actually have an undergrad degrees in both accounting and Spanish, and then a business minor as well. And I kind of started out of school right away going into accounting and getting my CPA license. And I kind of went back and forth between teaching Spanish or being the CPA. And then I went on to get my master's degree in Spanish linguistics as well.
Okay, and when did your journey in the FBI begin?
So it actually started about a couple of years ago. I had been looking on the website, the FBIjobs.gov, for just looking. I was kind of done with the teaching industry, and I was looking for other ways I could use my Spanish. And I saw that they were looking for linguists, and they were looking for translators as well. And so that's actually what kind of got me started looking at
Okay,
it.
and what were like your main motivations when you were just starting in this journey?
So I really had thought initially when I applied that I was applying for a linguist position, and so when I wrote an email out and they reached back out to me for a meet and greet, I wasn't actually aware that it was for special agents in the linguistic program. So I thought I was going to become a linguist.
And you were telling me too, like before we started recording, that you were also, or that you had also lived in other countries like Spain, Mexico. Like, can you tell me more about it too?
Of course, yep. So I lived in Granada and Ana Lucia in Spain for about 6 months. Just did a program over there, did some business for the business degree, as well as doing hospital volunteer work.
Okay.
And then I had done for single moms, they had a single moms school down in Peru. And so they were sending teachers and faculty members to go down and kind of mentor some of these single moms that were looking at the teaching industry. And so I got to be a part of that for, it was a 6-week program, so it was pretty cool. And then I did a little bit of mission work, kind of helping out kids down in Nayarit and Ruiz.
Nayarit, yeah.
As well for a couple of summers.
I have an uncle and an aunt who are living in Nayarit too.
Oh, yeah.
They're from Hermosillo. I mean, my aunt is from Hermosillo and my uncle is from Torreon or Nayarit. I don't remember, but he ended up finding an opportunity, like a work opportunity there, and they have been living there since 2009 or 2008.
No, yeah, it's beautiful.
It is.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Is that true that there's a lot of crocodiles there?
There's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah?
Yes.
And what has been like your favorite place where you have lived?
I really enjoy Spanish, so I have to say Spain 100%. Like the architecture, like Gaudi and Barcelona and all that stuff. So.
Did you go to any soccer games? Did you go?
We did. I have a couple of flags up in my room, but we didn't get to see anyone that was like Arsenal or something like that.
You didn't see Messi or anyone?
No, we didn't see those people.
Okay. So moving on, like more into the FBI stuff.
Yep.
What are your roles as an FBI agent?
Yep, so we do a lot of stuff. So every day is completely different than the day before. And so definitely just the variety alone makes it super exciting, like just as a career. So there's some days where we're out just like collecting data or doing research, responding to a scene. We do some forensics as well. And then, I mean, there's days where we're obviously going out and executing arrests on people as also. So I mean, there's really, we wear a lot of hats.
And is it too hard to do the actual job every day?
Do you mean physically hard or?
Physically and emotionally.
I think you are out in the community, and so I think there's kind of that, it can be emotionally difficult sometimes, just kind of seeing how things are maybe in a different community other than your own. But physically it's challenging. It is really important to keep in good shape. And so I do think it is something where, you have to maintain form and everything like that.
So you have been in the FVA like for a couple of years, but what would you say that have been your biggest accomplishments or something or some stuff that you feel very proud of?
At my job related to the Yeah, I think just getting to build relationships out in the community. So a lot of our job is really talking to people and establishing connections and everything like that. And we work a lot of different stuff than what people see on the news.
Yeah.
And so our biggest thing is connecting with other people and finding out kind of what's going on and making sure, we're pursuing the proper channels.
Yeah, and how do you handle it, for example, a situation when it comes like communication strategies or something like that, when people that you're talking to, that they are in trouble with the FBA or with the government? So, because sometimes people have a bad attitude, like they want to fight or they want to be like super offensive. How do you handle that, like communication wise?
I think that's where being a teacher was such a great asset.
Makes sense.
Students, to be fair, right? Students can act the same way in my mind. But everyone's a human being. So I think usually if you are honest and forthright and explain to people exactly what's going on and just give them an opportunity to kind of process that and talk that through, and then it's pretty easy to kind of manage it.
Okay. And before you were mentioning about your journey when you were just starting, but I would like to go a little bit deeper on that. How's the process like? Are there like a lot of interviews? There's like a lot of applications, background checks and stuff like that?
Yep. So the background check process is pretty exhaustive. It's harder than other agencies. Just based on, again, what you can kind of see when you're clicking on our website. But so you do that. There's written tests and everything, as well as interviews. And so it can be a long process, kind of just depending on where you're at and as your job and your background and that kind of stuff.
How long did it take?
Well, I was pretty fortunate. I think just when they looked at my skill set and everything else, I think we were able to kind of move it along a little faster. So a little bit under a year.
Oh, so it takes a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's a little bit of a shorter one, but yeah, it's pretty.
And
it is a longer process. Yes.
And I get super desperate whenever, like, for example, when they hire me in a work, I'm like, when they tell me, okay, we're gonna call you next week. Like for me, it takes forever.
Oh my goodness. No, I totally agree. Yes. Yeah.
Would you consider yourself like patient in this context?
Well, when you're excited, it's hard, right? So you're waiting to hear back, and so time kind of goes slowly. But they give you a point of contact, which is really nice. So if you are nervous or anything else, they communicate with you through the whole process. You
should be like probably thinking about it like every single moment, right?
I had to tell myself a couple times, like, hey, it's coming, like it's a holiday, or it was the weekend, so they're not gonna get back to you right away. So yeah, it was.
I'm asking you this because I was listening to a podcast. His name is Roberto Martinez, and he was interviewing the CEO of this company of logistics that just became a unicorn like a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
So he was telling him that when he got like the loan or the investment from the bank, he was saying like, so we got a contract and now like we're a unicorn. However, we needed to wait for 90 days because the bank was going to investigate the company, like all the statements to make sure that everything was correct. And he was saying like 90 days, like for him, it was like, imagine like if I did something wrong, probably like, obviously that he did his best like in order to provide like everything like super accurate, but you can sometimes like you probably miss a number or a zero or something like that. And he was saying like for him it took forever, and it was only 3 months, and for you it was like almost a year, right?
Well, especially if you're regulated, like I'm sure by the SEC and everything else for those guys. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, and can you think about one or two questions that were super hard for you to answer when you were in the interview?
I think so. A lot of the questions, and again, like you can see this on our website, but they kind of go through those behavioral questions. I mean, they're similar actually to the ones I think that you had sent over. Right?
Okay.
About, some of those like just development things or experiences in your life. A lot of questions, like I know I've listened to some other podcasts, but questions, you ask some of your interviewees. So those are, I think, as long as you go in prepared and you kind of have that life experience, like I think you're, we've all been in situations where we've made a mistake and we've learned from it and those kind of things. So just making sure that you.
I always think, and probably not only me, many people have said like when someone is successful, like everything that happened behind the scenes, stuff that you don't see, is like what builds your character, your personality, how you respond to new situations. So can you think about an experience that changed your life so you're the person you are now?
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up in a pretty modest family, in a pretty small town, and I think that like you had said, just not everything comes easy for a lot of people, and some of those experiences where you do have to work hard for something, whether it's grades, whether it's having to put yourself out there to try to network or make a relationship or something like that. Those are the ones that really they form your personality. or you form your character, not personality. So I think those are some of the more unique experiences that I'd had as well. So I'm actually I was adopted as well. So it's one of those things where it's just you have certain things in your own life that definitely shape you, like you had said.
And you were mentioning about personality, and probably this has nothing to do with the FBI, but I want to know your opinion, because recently I have been talking about personality changes. Because, for example, I always bring the example that when I was in middle school, I would say that I'm the same person that I'm now, just like in little. But when I went to middle school and then to high school, everything changed like completely. My sister got cancer. I was like in my teenage years. I was like 12 or 13 when everything was happening. And then during these 6 years, for me, it was like super hard to keep my personality, my character, like self-confidence and self-esteem. And then when I went to college, I was like, probably now it's going to be harder because I don't even speak English, so how am I going to communicate? And then it took me a while, but at the same time, I was like, I'm new here, I'm in a new place, so it's going to be easier to start transforming my personality. So I would be like researching just in Google or reading books about people that I admire, like Derek Jeter, for example. Yeah. And I would be like, okay, so if this kind of stuff have worked for them, I want to do the same. So for example, walk faster or dress this way or talk to people this way. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about changing personalities? Because sometimes people are like, no, this is who I am. But yeah, you can be better, you know?
No, I totally agree with you, because I think even just like when you had asked about or you're talking about character, it takes practice. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned like Derek Jeter, right? So you have the business people as well, like Peter Drucker. You have a lot of these people that talk about, how to be successful, or like the art of negotiation, how to talk to people. It's a skill. You have to practice it. Just like you have to practice when we go out and interview people. I mean, you might have to talk to person A in one way, and you got to be able to talk to person B in a totally different way. So I agree. It takes practice, and I think some of it comes easy, and other of it you just have to keep putting yourself out there. But reading those books, I mean, you've got, like you said, those are great names. So that's a great thing to do.
So would you say that you have passed, I mean, you already said, right, like you have passed through experiences that have like shaped your character.
Yep.
What would you say that has been something that really changed in you? For example, in my case, that I was like super shy or super like timid, and then I was like, okay, so now if I want to make connection with people, I gotta step out of my comfort zone. That's an example of myself. Mm-hmm. What would you say that it's an example of you?
Yeah, so I think definitely, like if I were to reflect, like being younger, it's when you have a few more years of just experience at a job, or maybe getting, having some of those painful situations where you kind of get put in your place because you maybe did something wrong, or you did something because you didn't know any better, just even in a first or second career. I think that it's good in order to have different experiences. I'm trying to think of a personal one that was probably something that put me on a better path. There's quite a few times where I started to realize I need to speak up for myself a little bit more. So I think when you're younger, sometimes people are nervous to stand up, but there's always an appropriate way. And like finding like a mentor, or finding someone at work that's maybe 1 or 2 levels above to you, that you can go and talk to them and say, hey, I'm kind of thinking about this. What are your thoughts? Can you walk me through this process on how to get there?
And it's always like the way you communicate, because I remember last semester I had a friend that was working in this place, and then she got like some confrontations with her boss, and I was like, she sent me a screenshot, and I was like, hey, you gotta calm down, like he's your boss anyway, and if he's not giving you the hours you want or stuff like that. It was something like super simple, but she was like, no, because I want this to happen like this, and like that. But at the same time, it's like how you say it, And I remember that what you said, like going like with the higher ups. In December, I recorded with a friend that he's a pilot, he has businesses, and he's someone that I really admire. And he told me, you're only 2 or 3 people away from anyone in the world, because it's always like, for example, if I don't know the person that I want to talk to, but if I know someone who knows him or who knows her, I can tell him or tell her like, hey, can you introduce me to this person? So it's always who you know and what you can do for them too, because you need to add value at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and just with your friend that you're talking about too, like sometimes unfortunately you just have to put your time in, right? So you might not be getting exactly what you want in your job. Like with us, right? We are on call like 24 hours a day. So if something were to come up, like we deploy or we
24 hours a day.
Well,
wow.
In terms of just like if a national emergency or something,
yeah,
up,
yeah,
you do have to respond. So it is one of those things where you're not chained to everything, but sometimes you have a week where you work a lot more hours than you want to, or you can't meet up with your friends after work, and it's just kind of it's just kind of part of the job, but it was worth it because then other weeks it all balances out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And moving more like, or right now, like deeper into the FBI thing, what would you say that having some of the hardest trainings that you have had?
I think that one of the hardest things for me is our defense, is the tactical training.
Okay.
So we do some of those case exercises at the academy when you go through the Special Agent Academy, and it's just I didn't ever really picture myself, hand-to-hand combat and these fights. And so that was probably the most difficult. So it's a physical difficult as well, but it was just even for me, that was a different. I hadn't engaged in a lot of combat fighting before.
Had you practiced martial arts before joining the FBI?
No, so I'd taken like a couple, like just taekwondo or whatever. When
I like taekwondo.
Yeah. When you're younger, I'd taken a couple of things like that, but no, nothing like what we did there.
And do you need to exercise like certain times a week? Do you have like trainers and stuff like that to keep yourself in shape?
So I do, because again, I work on a squad where we're really active. We're in the street a lot, and so we all kind of maintain a workout schedule. But and part of your requirement as special agent too is they give you time to work out.
Okay.
So that is a benefit, right? So we have a gym at our office as well, and so it's one of those things.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So so they want you to stay in shape, and they want you to be healthy. And we have like fit and wellness fairs as well, because that's a big part of lifestyle.
Do you enjoy working out?
I actually love working out. Yes.
Yeah, me too. So that's something positive.
Yeah.
So another question: how is that day, in the life of an FBI agent?
Well, again, I really enjoy it because we get so much variety, and I get to meet a lot of people, and we're in a big city. We have a great office. The culture is fantastic. Like we're out doing just a lot of work in our community, and really just being able to investigate cases and look at things farther. It's great.
Okay.
And we're also at our office, we're allowed to go ahead and join a team that goes out and responds to scenes, and so we recover scenes. Just if there's been like skeletal remains, some of the stuff you see on TV, like that forensic science stuff, we get to go be a part of it, and it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool too.
And how it is for you, for example, when it comes, you say that you're on call 24/7. Has it been? I mean, probably it has been when you need to wake up like at 2 or 3 a.m. because something is going on.
Yeah. So I mean, that does happen, and again, we're in a little bit of a bigger city, so it happens a little more often, but it's really great. I mean, again, if you were out of town or anything else, it's flexible, right? So, and those first couple of years, you do have you're working really, really close with the team and someone, a trainer right over you. So that's really nice.
And in your day to day, like for example, like you wake up at 8 or you wake up at 6 and do exercise and then office work and then going to the street, for example, or does it change every day?
It really does, and I'm not just saying that to say it, but I usually get up about like 4:30 in the morning. Just
wow.
It's just, I mean, right? Like, I don't know. It's hot. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's Phoenix.
We wake up pretty early, but it really can totally change. We can be called out, be doing something at like 6 a.m. or you can start at the office and they told, oh my gosh, we need people over here, or it really is different. Like, I'm just pretty fortunate. We don't sit a lot at the office.
What's some things that you enjoy the most and the least about your job?
I actually love surveillance. I think it's really fun. So obviously, just with our federal nexus, we have jurisdiction for like airports and that kind of thing too. So there's some really fun surveillance trips we get to do, or following people and that kind of stuff is always is fun. Like, that's probably my favorite part.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is fun. Like, I love that part. So.
And something that you don't like?
I'm trying to think. I'm really having to think. Well, like I said, so one thing that is really great, at least about our law enforcement agency, is we have to qualify. And we have a lot of sessions to qualify for firearms, but we always do like the defense, that hand-to-hand tactic stuff. So we have to do that once a quarter. So that's not my favorite. To wrestle people on the ground, but so I mean, if I had to pick something, that would be it. But I mean, it's like.
Do you mind when someone calls you at 2, 3 a.m. and you need to wake up to a work, or you're just like getting used to it?
Yeah, I think I'm used to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm an RA here, and when someone calls me like 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. that I'm sleeping, it's like, I don't like it.
Well, no, so I feel like after you go through the academy, you just have a totally different mindset, right? Like if they're calling you at that time, it's important. They're not calling to be, to tell you something.
There's a lockout or something.
Yeah. Calling to be like, hey, don't forget it's casual Friday tomorrow. They're calling you.
Yeah, it's for something really important.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Another questions. What are some of the habits that you have that have helped you within this role? Like personal habits that have helped you.
Yeah, so I think that, and I didn't always do this, but making a list and being organized is really helpful because we field so much different stuff that you can lose track just with paperwork. I mean, we go through the legal system and everything else when we are doing casework. So being organized has really, really worked for me. Like in terms of, like I've had to force myself, we talked about practicing, so I have to force myself to kind of make a list. I think typically when you like work out and you take good care of yourself too, I think that's something that also has helped me because you need to be able to do things because it would not be very cool for you to not to be able to perform or to be able to help someone out if they needed help when you're on the street. So those are probably the biggest things for me for habit-wise.
Just curious, how many things are in your to-do list? Like weekly?
Like what do you mean?
For example, like I was asking because I had to interview the NAU president last year, and I remember that he told me, so even like just to schedule the podcast with him, it took me 2 months. And then he told me that he had more than 250 things to do in his to-do list.
On his list? Oh my goodness. Okay, so sometimes they carry over the next day, but I really try not to do more than 8. Now that doesn't mean I'm not doing more than 8 things, but that you have like the must do, like this has to get done today.
Yeah.
But you do learn what can wait and what has to be done. So I think that's something I definitely learned in my first 6 months.
Yeah.
Just things that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. But you figure out what to prioritize.
And what are some of the qualities that you have as a person that has helped you succeed in the role?
I'm definitely a hardworking person, and I'm extremely committed to anything that I undertake. So I think it's important. We work it as a team, and it sounds super like cheesy about saying being a team player, but everything we do is as a team, as a squad. So I mean, we help each other out, like where one person maybe is a little bit weaker in an area, someone else steps in. So I'm really fortunate to have a great team. So I think being able to work as a team player, working hard and looking for opportunities. So if you're miserable, the best thing in my opinion about our agency is there are so many different things you can do. There are things that I'm sure I don't even know about yet that you can do.
Do you have like trainings about like how to work in teams, how to network, how to be a better leader and stuff like that?
So they put on a lot of trainings, and so they have virtual trainings and in-person trainings. And again, like I said, your first couple years, you're pretty close with like a training agent as well. And so they really provide a lot of that stuff for you. Like and again, most of the people looking kind of understand like networking, and they kind of want to go out and do that stuff. But you're really just exposed to so many different kinds of people.
I always ask these questions to most of my guests that have been in my podcast. How do you network with people? What are some of your key strategies to network?
I think that in terms of key strategies, it's really just making time. So there's been a couple times where I would even say I've cold called people, or I've seen someone in a different area, and I've been like, gosh, I wonder how they got there. I want to kind of find out more about that. And a lot of times when you go up, I mean, and you're interviewing me, as soon as you start asking them questions, they're super willing to talk to you about their experience, how they got to you, like really, and they're willing to go out and have coffee with you and talk to you more about it. And they're, like you said, they're willing to introduce you to maybe 1 or 2 other people up that you would like to get to know as well. Has
it happened to you like in your life or in the agency, or like you want to know someone and someone introduced you to that person?
Yeah, no, I was pretty fortunate. Just in my accounting career, I was able to become like a director of accounting at a pretty young age, and it was because I put myself out there. And actually, the person I happened to be talking to at they had like some of those networking events where I was working.
Those are the best ones.
Yes, and I happened to just walk up and introduce myself, and like you talked about being shy, it took so much. I kept telling myself, nope, go do this, and it ended up being somebody pretty high up at the company, and he was like, I can't believe you came over and talked to me. Like, this is great. Like, let's talk.
I was interviewing last semester, a professor here from NAU, Paul Thomas, and I remember that he told me sometimes like you get to know these people, I'm paraphrasing, but sometimes it's a person that you can get coffee with, sometimes it's a person that's gonna buy your company, or sometimes it's a person that you can always call whenever you're in a situation and that person can help you, right?
100%, yes.
Have you committed like a mistake in your career that taught you a super important lesson?
So I think what is really important with us is that we work through a legal system, and we're in the public eye a lot. So to be very careful about how you phrase things or how you write things when you're documenting processes. And so even just silly mistakes in terms of just typos or anything else, that sometimes gets released and it goes in front of a court system or it goes in front of a judge. And then, even like your competency can be called in. Are you intelligent? Are you competent? Like you clearly left out a sentence here, or you weren't doing that. So there's been a few times I've been fortunate, again, because I like to always have someone else review it, just like when you're writing papers. So I think just trying to maybe rush and not take the time to go back through and just even take a break from it, because there's been times where I've got to get this done today, I got to get it done, and I really just should have gone back and reviewed it again.
Because you can get burned out too, right?
Yes, 100%.
Now you're mentioning this, like you work directly with the legal system. I was watching an interview of Ernesto Jerez. He's one of the narrators of ESPN in Spanish for the Major League Baseball. And he was saying, I represent ESPN. It doesn't matter if I'm working or not. So if someone sees me in a bar and I'm drunk and I'm doing stupid stuff, then ESPN is going to fire me immediately, because it's not only me, it's ESPN, because I represent ESPN 24/7. How's that for you as an agent? Because you gotta take care of yourself a lot, right?
No, and I agree with you 100%. I think it's a little bit of a more pressure, like you said. I feel that I do kind of like to stay home just because we're out a lot now anyway, but you're 100% right. I mean, whenever I'm out, I am very well aware that if someone knows I'm an agent, I am representing the FBI all times. And you, 100, totally right. Like they will call you and be like, hey, this video surfaced of you, or what were you doing here, or what was going on here? So
what about, for example, your personal branding? Because right now, like with everything that is going on in social media, it's a tool that it can play against you or on your favor. Are you allowed to have social media or not?
Yeah, so we can have social media. It's everyone's individual choice, because just like you said, people can look at anything. I mean, even just how it is with LinkedIn, and everybody in HR that works HR looks like just does a mass profile on all those sites, right, to see what you posted. But it's really agent specific on what they want to post on social media.
Was there anything that you were scared or worried before joining the FBI?
I'm trying to think. I was just more shocked at the beginning because I didn't 100% understand the process.
Okay.
Because again, like I thought I was gonna pursue a different career. But no, I was really excited. I mean, I'm a big variety person. I think that's, in some of these other jobs, you're kind of doing the same thing every day. And so I was excited. I probably didn't know enough of what I should be scared, or worried.
Yeah. Makes sense. And what would you say that are some of the most amazing things that you have learned during these couple years?
I think I've just learned a lot more about how the world works. I've had the advantage, like I said, I've lived in a couple other, like just third world countries. I've been able to see a lot of other stuff, but you realize that everyone is human. There's a whole lot of other people out there. There's a lot more going on than maybe in your like 10-mile radius that a lot of people just stay home or go to work. I've gotten some opportunities to work with just fantastic people that have great stories. Like, I mean, that's probably been the best thing.
Okay. And what are like the most common misconceptions that people have, especially like what we see in TV, what the media shows and stuff?
I'm so excited because when some of our friends would come down to visit, they assumed that we all just drive around these gigantic black vehicles and just like we're always in black suits and we're like running around like like on the TV shows. But that's not true. Like we don't all have gigantic black tinted out SUVs and we're rolling into the scenes. But I'm trying to think a couple of the other ones.
Do you always need to be in uniform?
So depending on what you're working, right? So like if we're on the streets, I'm going to look like I'm on the streets. I'm not going to look like in a suit. So and again, if you're in the court system, you're in front of a judge, you're going to also be dressed. It's like you're going into court, right?
Okay.
So totally that's dependent on what you're working. I think another common misconception for us is that we can just go in and do whatever we want. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like you still have to apply for things. You have to have probable cause. The same thing any other kind of investigation would have. We can't just march into the house next door tomorrow because we want to.
Yeah, because you gotta follow the law.
We have to follow the law. We're not above the law at all. Yeah.
Is the uniform heavy?
So depending on, are you talking more like?
Because sometimes like you have like the vest or all the accessories. That's how you say it?
Basically, yeah. No, I mean, well, I don't think it is, but again, I think that's like important while you work out too. But some people have the plates, so right, more of a weighted vest, but that's probably something more for like the SWAT team has a lot more.
Is it comfortable?
I think the newer ones are really nice.
Oh, really?
So actually, yeah, the new ones are nice. So some of the when I'd come on, some of the older agents have been like, I want a new vest. But,
and how does it feel for you when you wear the uniform, or when you wore the uniform for the first time? How did it feel?
Amazing. It was great. So again, just it was totally like a dream come true, 100%.
Yeah,
right? It's pretty cool.
I'm asking you this because like I'm a Yankees fan. Probably people who love the Red Sox are hating me right now.
They sure are.
But after this episode, I was telling you before we started recording that I'm gonna interview someone else, and he got to play with the Yankees and with the Dodgers a few years ago. And one of the questions that I'm gonna ask him, like, how do you feel when you put the Yankees uniform? Because I have never talked to anyone who had played with the Yankees. So for me, it's like if I would had a chance to wear that uniform, like, and be playing in Yankees Stadium, for me it would be like a dream come true, like as you 100%. Said.
Yeah, and I think like again, you're out there representing your country. You're trying to do the right thing. I mean, again, we investigate federal crimes. I mean, it's not just those are pretty big deals. So definitely, it's been fantastic.
When it comes to exercising and workout, do you have the choice to do whatever you want when it comes like to doing weights or doing cardio or stuff, or you gotta follow like a super specific plan?
Yeah, so they actually have resources if you want a plan. So we do have an annual fitness test that we have to pass, and so there's a lot of really great stuff like on our website too. They even have like they have food, they have samples of how to like nourish your body and work out. But like for me, I just go to a gym and kind of do my own thing.
Okay, and what are some of the things that you need to pass in that test?
So there is sit-ups, and then the sprint, and then push-ups, and then a longer run.
Is it like, for example, I don't know, more specific in the squats? Do you need to lift certain weights, or it's more like reps?
So it definitely depends on what you're going to be going out and doing. So it's a matter of like leveraging your resources. Right?
Oh yeah.
So if we are going to be going up on a house, and maybe someone has to carry one of like the heavier, just an entry tool or something like that. It definitely needs to be somebody that is experienced in lifting heavier weights. And then again, if we end up having to run after someone, right? Then the people that are runners or somebody that's a little bit can kind of do that as well. So
because sometimes it always depends like on your body, like genetics, right?
Yeah.
Because for example, like I mean, I'm big, so I can be like better doing weights than running. Because for me, like moving almost 300 pounds running is not that easy, But for example, I have friends who are like 150 pounds and they can run forever, but they cannot do weight. So it's like you gotta leverage, as you said, like depending on your body, I guess.
Well, and I think when you look at just our past times and qualifying times, they take that into consideration because you're right. We need the stronger people, and we have that's a need, right? SWAT team, you have certain needs for sure.
How do you prepare, like in your day-to-day before going to work?
So definitely I wake up and I work out because I feel better. So that clears my mind and I have a great attitude. I try to like either listen to a podcast or just some of my apps on my phone on the way in just to kind of mentally prepare myself for it. But again, it's kind of going back to that list, and it's just making sure I know exactly what I have to get done today because something can come up at any time. And I think surrounding yourself too with people that are positive and encouraging, like because some parts can be hard, and that's important, right? What
podcast do you listen to in the gym?
I actually listen to a lot of Spanish music. If I'm gonna listen, I listen to music when I work out.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I do. So I love like Sebastián Yatra is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Like Enrique Iglesias, I love all those guys.
Enrique Iglesias.
So I listen to.
That's good.
Yeah.
And how can you grow within the FBI? Is it easy or is it hard to scale positions?
It's really easy to just inquire about what other opportunities there are. And so I think if you were to maybe talk to someone who felt like they were stuck, the first question would be, well, have you tried asking? Kind of like we talked about cold calling. I mean, so we have like recruiters there. We have people that want to help you transition. There are a whole host of people you can meet with to say, hey, like I'd like to try this out. Like help me get there. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities.
And what are something that you're aspiring for the next years?
For me, I definitely just want to keep, I want to get some experience, I think, working some of the other federal crimes that we investigate. So there's quite a few that different just aspects or varieties that you can go through. So I think that's a big one. I definitely think that opening a case from the beginning and then closing it and then going through a lot of that legal process, like that's probably the biggest one, because that's where you do the most learning, when you're actually doing something from like start to finish.
Okay.
And then because our stuff is federal, I mean, our cases are usually a little bit longer. It's not like maybe more of a local law enforcement agency where it's, maybe some of them can be just a few months. Ours are usually pretty long.
What's some of the most important things from the FBI higher-ups that are going to allow you to have more opportunities to grow or to become someone important? Do they take care a lot about how you handle your emotions or how your leadership style or stuff like that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so actually we do have an annual meeting where they just talk about you mentally, like, hey, how are you doing? Do you feel like you're getting enough opportunities here? Do you have any suggestions for us? So I think they're very, very open to feedback. And again, for those first couple years, we have a really good new agent training program where they're going to come in, they're going to walk right beside you, they're going to do check-ins with you, they're going to make sure that everything is progressing kind of how you'd want it. So I definitely feel like, you hear all these great things about like working for the FBI, and it is just one of those things where, I mean, people don't really leave.
And how important is mental health?
For me personally, I think it's extremely important.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest priority. And again, I obviously taught before, and I taught a little bit during part of the beginning of COVID, and I just think, that's one of those, I know we're focusing on it as well. Like we have contacts in each office. I'm trying to remember exactly what they're called, but they're like a facilitator. They're someone that you can go talk to if you're going through any sort of kind of like behavioral
trends,
health contact or something like that. You know what I mean? So you can go, if you saw a scene that was really bad, maybe you had a really bad encounter with someone that you were out talking to, any that kind of stuff, you can go talk to them. If you're feeling bad, like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm not doing my job well, or things are really, really bad at home right now, like it's a safe space to go and talk to somebody. And I think all places that you work at need a place for you to have that. I mean, there's just, we're coming out of a big like kind of pandemic as well. Yeah.
What do you do, for example, like when it comes like about auto-sabotage? Because, for example, I play baseball, and in baseball it happens super often that most of the time it's mental. It's not like, sometimes we're like in a slump, so I can be like having 10 at-bats, not hitting a single hit, and it's because like I'm thinking too much, and sometimes I'm telling myself, so I'm not capable of hitting a curveball, I'm not capable of hitting 85 miles per hour fastball or something like that, but then it's like, but I have done it before, so then I should be able to. How do you handle that, not to auto-sabotage yourself when you pass through difficult situations? Yeah,
so I totally agree with you, because you can self-sabotage, like 100%. So for me at firearms, if I'm not hitting like on my target where I want to hit, I will be the same way. I'll start being like, oh my gosh, like I shouldn't be here. Why am I even shooting today or doing this today? But the best piece of advice I got from someone was like, once that's out, and again, I'm speaking specifically when we're at the firing range, like that line, it's gone. Like that bullet is gone. Like, and I have to tell myself sometimes, okay, this is a new shot. Like I got it. That one's done. I can't go back. I can't come grab it off a target and put it somewhere else. It's gone. And so it's talking to yourself. I completely believe in, like you said, positive.
Yeah. Do you have like mentors or people that you talk to that inspire you?
Yes, I do. So actually my training agent is absolutely phenomenal. And so she's definitely someone she's been there for quite a while. So she's fantastic.
What are some of the advice that she has given you?
Again, just volunteering for everything, like at the beginning, for sure. I mean, just making things work. I mean, looking for opportunities. I mean, you do have to work hard. I think, at least just even in my prior experience in accounting, you get some people that really just want to try to, work minimum hours and not go above and beyond. But that's the kind of stuff that's important. And we're helping with the community and the public, so we really should be looking for extra opportunities.
That makes sense, because yesterday I was talking to a professor. We literally finished class, and I went to his office like probably 30 or 40 minutes after class. And he was one of the persons or people in charge of the US Open tennis in the East Coast like some years ago. And then he told me everybody wanted to work with me because it's a huge event. It's a big deal. It's like marketing, publicity for that event. But then he was like, I mean, I could have interns because they were not asking me for money. They were like more than 100 students, or probably people who just graduated, wanted to work for free. So that was the reason why he wasn't paying other people, because it's like you gotta leverage your resources, obviously. And I was also talking to someone from Phoenix, Soyo, and I told him like, I want to help you because like as an international student, I cannot work in the US only in university. So I told him like, I want to get experience, but I cannot do it. So tell me something that I want to do. So right now we're gonna start working on branding, and I told him I don't care if I'm gonna be working for you like for free 2 or 2.5 years, but at the end I'm gonna be learning a lot, and it's gonna be like a win-win because I'm gonna be getting the experience into the real world. Plus he's gonna be like having I told him like he's gonna be like an employee for free. So it's like I'm gonna be working with another friend. Most likely we're gonna have a meeting probably today or tomorrow because we want to help him with branding. And I'm super passionate about branding.
Oh, that's fantastic, though. But like you're saying, that's such great experience. I mean, again, I would love to say that we're always monetarily compensated for everything we do, but like you just never are. No matter where you're working, it does not matter. So again, the experience is so invaluable, and you don't know who you're gonna meet just from having those experiences as well. Yeah.
And you can always like get something in the future that you didn't even expect, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like for me, I'm gonna be getting the experience. Probably in the future, he can help me with something, or he can include me in another project that might be like probably something more important. So at the end, as you said, like you gotta volunteer.
Yes.
In the beginnings, I always say that beginnings is the hardest part of everything. But like if you're able to handle hard beginnings, you're gonna be able to succeed at some point. It doesn't matter if it takes you 2 years or 10 years, right?
No, you're right. And again, some guy down the road could say, "Who's that guy that works for you? He was fantastic," and they're talking about you, right? So I totally agree.
And you never know who, or you never know what can happen in the future, right?
Yeah, and again, your reputation, I feel like, is totally guided by that. Like, were you the hard worker? Were you there? Sometimes we had to stay a little bit later at the office. You know? Your reputation always precedes you when you try to look for some of these other opportunities.
Yeah. What are some of the things that are like non-negotiable in the FBI?
Well, what do you mean?
An example, for example, in class, something that is non-negotiable is cheating, right? Or something that is non-negotiable.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm like, you can't cheat in the FBI at all. So I was like,
no,
cheating.
No, I know. I'm just giving an example. Or for example, like a professor was saying last week for week of classes, like someone told him that he wasn't going to be able to go to class because he had COVID, and then he saw him in a bar later that evening. Just stuff like that. Or for example, like in baseball, something that is non-negotiable, I mean, it's a non-written rule, is like going to the field walking. So I used to have like a manager, and he was like, if you don't enter the field like in the change of innings, if you don't enter by running, you go immediately to bench. And he would do it. So that was a non-negotiable in baseball.
Though. Good. Yeah, I mean, so we have a pretty high moral character as well. So in terms of just what's expected of us, so I feel like most people do. So I was trying to think of a few non-negotiables. There's nothing. I mean, you know, we aren't above the law, like I was trying to say earlier. So it's hard. I'm still like thinking about your baseball example.
Okay.
So sorry. So again, you know, I mean, we are always required to carry our firearm on us, right? So if we're in a situation and something were to go down, you know, I couldn't stand there and be like, oh shoot, I wasn't prepared, sorry, and try to sneak out like I wasn't at the scene, right? That would be completely unaccepted, and they would be letting you go. I think that's just something as you go through the academy. I mean, we're representing our country, like we're in the public, so you do hold yourself to just a higher moral standard, and they do too for ethics.
Okay. And what are some of the things that the FBI prevents you to do? Like, as I was saying before, like the case of ESPN, that he has to remember that even though he's not working for ESPN at that time, whatever he is, people are going to associate him with ESPN. So in that context.
Well, so I think one of the things when you're going through the process they evaluate you on is your emotional maturity, right? Or how are you going to react in certain situations. So if someone was maybe going through a bad spell, and again, I'm kind of going back to your ESPN scenario, and that was like a one-time thing. I'm not sure. Each case is completely unique and decided on that person's individual background. But I mean, you know, there are several things, we just don't do anything that's illegal. That's a totally lame answer. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, most of us have a pretty regimented life. Like, you know, we work out, we're at the job, and, you know, kind of go home at night.
Yeah, because for example, like for you, that you're not able to share a lot of like stuff related to work. Because for example, I don't know, when I would be like living in Mexico with my parents, I know my dad would be like, oh, this happened today at work, like we did this and that. Or my mom, like she's a teacher, and she would be saying like, oh, I had this kid who did this, and then I had this class or whatever. How's that for you that you need to keep everything like super private?
So sometimes it's It's a total bummer just to use not interview terms, but sometimes yes, because something super cool happened and I can't even go home and like say, guess what happened today? You know, so sometimes it is a little bit disappointing, but we talk about everything, you know, as our squad, on our team, and kind of debrief. So you do get used to it, right?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of things that we can totally talk about as well about our day. And definitely, obviously, when something's published or comes out in the news or anything like that, we're allowed to kind of talk about anything.
So if it's in the news, you can say it, right?
Well,
or
everything that was like published, yes. From
published,
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, just to finish the episode, something that I always do with my guests. So since I already asked you a lot of questions, now you can ask me 2 or 3 questions that you want to, related to whatever. And if a previous guest has asked me these questions, we gotta choose another one.
Okay, so I want to hear what your best strategies are for networking. Like, how do you network?
I was literally just doing a presentation about it this morning. So first thing, I would say you gotta add value. Because if you want to get to know someone that is very important, probably he or she's not gonna have the time for you. But if you're gonna add something for them, they will be more likely to accept. Because sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it's about who you know. But like, if someone knows me and if they know that I'm not a hard worker, they won't give me an opportunity in the company, you know. And my friend that I was mentioning about a while ago, Abraham, he told me that people don't care like about identities, your background, your emotions, what you like. They don't even care about your product if you're like a salesman. They only care about the value that you can add to them and about like making their lives easier. So that's one thing. So if I want to get to know someone, I would say I need to add value. Then other thing is always like try to go like to the highest person possible. And so with this podcast, sometimes like I post pictures about quotes that my guest said, and he said, you're only 2-3 people away from anyone in the world. So it's like I always try to go to the highest person, especially when it comes to baseball. I would say that is what I'm most passionate about.
Yeah.
So if I want to get to know this baseball player, I try to, for example, I interview a Hall of Famer from Mexico, and I was like, it's gonna be so hard to get him because like he's 50 years old, he doesn't have social media, he retired like 15 years ago. So I found his son in Facebook, and I told him, hey, I would love to interview your dad. The podcast is about this, and that. And then he's like, okay, so I'm gonna ask him, and he accepted. So it's more about trying to go deeper whenever you're like very interested in meeting someone. And other strategy would be always know like your elevator speech and know the value that you can add to people with different needs. Because if you know someone that you want to have like a connection with, you cannot just go there and tell them like, hey, I'm here for you, I can help you with anything you want, and they're gonna be like, okay, thank you. But if you tell them, I can help you in social media, I can help you something related to public speaking or leadership, it's gonna be like, you have to be more specific so they can see the value, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. That's great. Those are awesome. Okay, so then my next question is gonna say, what do you think has been the most influential book that you've read? Or it could be like an article. I mean, obviously.
Okay, about books, I would say, it's in Spanish. It says, Véndele a la mente, no a la gente. Sell to the mind, not to the people. Oh, you have seen it?
No, I like it. I like the title.
Oh yeah, I can send it to you later if you want. I have it in PDF. The name of the author is Jurgen Klarik. He's from Colombia, but he speaks English perfectly because he lived most of his life in the US, and it was mainly about studying the 3 different brains that we have. One, it was the reptile brain, the other 2 I honestly don't remember. But it was always like trying to persuade people in a way that you gotta target the mind, you know? So I would say like that one. And I also read another one about him that is called Neurooratoria. Like it was mainly about public speaking, but like trying to persuade people's minds. So sometimes he would say like when you are, I used to give like a lot of speeches before coming to the US in the past like probably 3-4 years. And I was trying to implement this. So if I would be in the stage and if I wanted to say something super important, he was like, okay, so you gotta walk, let's say to the left, and then your right foot has to go to that people. So what you say is gonna be more important. Or for example, if you have long sleeve like I am right now, and if I'm speaking like into a public, and if I want to say something important, I would draw like my sleeve, and then the contrast of the skin with the color of the shirt is gonna make something more.
Oh, and it catches there.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. So that was one of the strategies that he was saying in that book.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So who has been your favorite guest or just interviewee that you've had on here? Just in terms of like, or someone, like you learned something and you were like, oh my gosh, that was amazing.
There's been plenty, but if I gotta pick on, okay, I'm gonna pick up on T. Paul. He was one of my professors last semester, and he was the CEO of Intrinsic Aggressive, the company that created Google Earth.
Okay, that's cool.
And sometimes in the podcast he said like, okay, so this night the president of PlayStation called me because he wanted to have dinner with me, so I needed to take a flight to Tokyo. I got dinner with him and then I came back. So it was literally just a business trip. And then other thing that he was saying was about, I think that I already told you, but I didn't quote him, when he said that sometimes you can have like someone that you can sell your company to. Sometimes you can find someone like in a connection, like business connection or business relationship, and then it's someone you can always talk to, for example. So that's some of the things that I have learned. And I also interviewed Len Hostetter. He was the vice president of marketing at FedEx, and I'm going to interview him again next Wednesday, but it's going to be in person this time. He's my professor this semester, and he was my professor last semester too. And whenever he talks about stuff related to FedEx, it's so cool because like he was the one in charge of that. Yeah. So his class, most of the example that he shows, it's about FedEx. So it's like he actually knows what he's talking about, Yeah. I would pick up in these two guests. Also, who else? That's more, I would say, into the business world. But also, I love to talk to the 3 professional baseball players that I have interviewed.
Nice. Yeah, that one was pretty cool, isn't it?
One of them, his name is Luis Alfonso Garcia, and I was super nervous when I got to interview him because when I was a child, I used to think that I was him. I would like make my hair like him. I would walk like him. If I would be walking, I would be like trying to imitate who he was. And it was in March 2021 when I sent him a text in Instagram like, hey, I have this podcast. At that time, I was, I think, in episode 40, 42. Right now, it's like almost 110. So at that time, he was one of my first guests. And when he replied to my message, I was like, I can't believe it. And then he followed me on Instagram, and I was like, no way. I was super excited.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
And then when we go to record, I wasn't like familiarized with Zoom at that time. So it was through a phone call, and I was recording the phone call through this same system, but it was just like, they implemented that feature for the COVID pandemic. But then I would be like holding my phone, and then I was like smiling 24/7 in that podcast because I just couldn't believe that I was talking to him, and I was super nervous. It's so weird when I get nervous like in a recording, but like with him, I was super nervous because I was like, I can't believe that I'm talking to someone that I grew up like admiring,
100%. That's really cool.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So I was going to ask you, so when are you graduated?
I'm going to graduate in December.
Oh, okay. So soon.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We're recording this in September.
Okay.
Because sometimes people are listening probably to this episode in 2025. You never know.
Yeah, of course. No, for sure. So then what are your plans after that?
I'm going to stay working here actually, like literally in this building with athletics through a graduate assistantship. And I'm going to start doing the masters and working for them at the same time.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
And cool. You see how cool this building is. So.
Yeah, it is cool. Well, yeah, it's a beautiful campus.
Yeah, I like a lot this department because it's like, there's no drama. Everyone knows what we need to do, and it's always like a good atmosphere,
Yeah. Do you like the weather and everything up here?
I like the weather, I would say, from April to October, because I don't like the winter at all.
I was gonna ask, just as
yeah, I don't like the snow, honestly. It seems, it looks very beautiful, but it's like I don't enjoy walking in the snow because also like baseball practices are canceled. You cannot walk fast. It's, I just don't like it.
Do you guys do any kind of indoor training at all then in the winter for baseball?
Last year we didn't, but right now, I think they just put up batting cages in the field house.
Oh, okay.
It's a building that is Central Campus, so probably we can rent them if it starts snowing soon.
Yeah, for sure. No.
Most of the time is just in the south field as we just practice there. Like we have practice today, 2 hours. So, if it doesn't rain.
Yeah, that's true. It was supposed to rain. What is your master's going to be in then?
MBA.
MBA. Okay, very cool. And you're able, you can just stay right here and keep going. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, thank you, Vanessa, first of all, for accepting this interview. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think that right now I have way more knowledge about the FBI.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that people also enjoyed. So if you are listening to this episode, please remember to share it in your Instagram stories. My username is Luis Carlos Estrada. And the number 2, I was gonna say dos. And what else? Yeah, you share it with your friends. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.